Welcome back. We're into the final part of this morning's sessions, the run into lunch, and I think we've saved an absolutely brilliant series of sessions left to finish off this discussion this morning. And we're going to move on to the digital dimension. When you think of how much progress the world has seen through its young technology companies, through the businesses that are changing our lives, often for the better. Sometimes we're debating about the difference that they make. This next couple of sessions will look at that story, how it's developing and where it might go. And to kick us off, it's an absolutely great pleasure to welcome the Secretary of State for Digital Culture, Media and Sport. I have to say, Matt Hancock is one of the most terrific ministers. I think that he's been a real champion you'll make your own views. I mean, I feel that he has been a real champion for the digital sector. I think that he's entered into this role with real enthusiasm and a real ambition to do something very positive. He will no doubt want to set out his own stall in terms of what he's done. So please do give a very big round of applause for Matt Hancock.
Well, thanks, Michael. I mean, what a lesson in flattery. It's a great pleasure to be here. To be honest, when I was sitting down listening to you just then, Michael, I didn't want the introduction to start. If you want to come and introduce me at any future events, then I'm sure that you'll be very welcome. You just got to be nicer next time. But I'm delighted to be here, and what a terrific event to come to, and a day to celebrate the change makers. I came here on the tube. I was quite glad that you're running a few minutes late. That was because I was stuck, unable to get past Parliament Square, where a statue this morning is being unveiled to Millicent Fawcett, the first woman to stand as a statue in Parliament Square, and herself a great change maker 100 years ago. And therefore, to be invited to this conference for change makers is a great honour and a great pleasure. And I have the pleasure of meeting and working with change makers every single day. In the Department for Digital Culture, Media and Sport, we think of ourselves as the Department of the Future. Change makers in the world of culture and in our cultural life, and of course, digital transformation, having a phenomenal impact and a pace of change that the world has never seen before. And I like to think of it this way. The pace of change that we are living through now is, in fact, the slowest pace of change that we will experience for the rest of our lifetimes. So as new technologies, digital technologies, artificial intelligence and others, as they get exponentially faster, it is now commonplace to say that these changes are only accelerating. But the flip side of that is that the impact on our lives is getting faster and faster. And thus, if you're uncomfortable with change now, it will get only faster still. And I just wanted to address some of the impact this has from the point of view of somebody in government. I came to government having started life in the tech sector and understanding the impact of these changes on business, and now trying to ensure that the government is well positioned to do what it needs to do to make it happen. Governments have an opportunity now to create an environment that supports business, and tech business in particular, and also creates the appropriate norms and rules for the online world. And this balance between the two is critical in a way it wasn't even a few years ago. Making sure that the ethics, the norms and the rules are in place to ensure the positive development of technology for mankind, whilst also supporting the innovation that is mission critical. And I want to go into 3 areas where I think that our focus needs to be laser-like to make this happen and to give change makers the help that they need. Firstly, the right business environment. Secondly, the right skills. And thirdly, the right ethics. And I think we need all 3 if we're going to get it right. First, governments around the world need to set the conditions, not just for a thriving digital economy, but also one that generates positive social change. Now, I am a deep believer that business is a force for good in the world. Successful businesses are those which solve other people's problems, and in fact solve other people's problems so well that they're prepared to pay for them. And this business environment, and ensuring that we have the positive business environment, is critical. But I think increasingly more and more businesses in the UK and beyond are thinking deeply about their social purpose and integrating that into their core strategy too. And we've seen an acceleration in recent years in digital social enterprises doing brilliant work. I take one example, Zinc VC. It's an incubator building new companies to solve the developed world's toughest social issues like mental health and loneliness through the application of new technology. There are new companies connecting volunteers with people in their area who aren't always able to cook for themselves. Financial platforms, commercial financial platforms that help people to become debt-free. Apps that allow tuition and healthcare to be given to people in the remotest areas of the world. And this tech for good sector is a critical part of the development of new technology in a way that is both commercial and socially good and is growing fast. The government clearly has a role here. Big Society Capital, the world's first wholesale social investor fund, was set up 5 years ago by the Cameron government, and it's already committed a billion to social sector organisations. And we are continuing to look at how we can expand this through the economy. And what I find interesting is, having been a minister now for 5 years, starting in the business department, the conversation around the inclusive economy and the need to rise to major social challenges is now higher on the agenda than it ever has been. And I think that the UK is leading the world. But it isn't just about the businesses that are explicitly about solving social problems as well, but also about making sure we're at the cutting edge of the new development of new technologies, including clean growth, and I want to pick out artificial intelligence. In these areas, we face a grand challenge to make sure that Britain is leading the world, despite the fact that we are a mid-sized economy, and making sure that the development of the new technologies happen here. That allows us to have an influence over the unlocking of this technology and make sure that the best of the technologies are developed here too. And that brings me to talent and ethics. So if we want to create the right business environment, we've got to get the talent and the ethics right too. So because technology and automation have a radical impact on the workplace and will have further radical impact on the workplace, there is no point in trying to hold back the tide. We understand the big debate that there is around the impact of technology, but I think that there is a growing consensus that the impact on jobs of new technologies, where technologies are augmented and affected, where jobs are augmented and affected by the technology, that change will happen. The challenge we have is to ensure that we embrace and create the new jobs that are created by that technology. And to do that, we need to give people the skills they need, and crucially, to support those who need to retrain. And here, I think that Britain, in many ways, leads the world, making coding in the curriculum compulsory at the school age, through to supporting a more flexible labour market and expanding the digital training for adults. We have a far-reaching programme to support people whose jobs are being disrupted by technology. And part of this is the need to embed these digital skills far and wide, and also have a chance to make sure our tech industry is more representative of our country as a whole. Now, it is in a way, easy, especially here in the centre of London, to focus on the needs of high-end tech skills. And of course, this is mission critical. But we need to have a full spectrum approach to getting the talent that we need to make sure that everybody can participate with the new technology, and right up at the top, that we can continue to be the most advanced in the world. And part of doing that is making sure that our tech industry itself is more representative of the country as a whole. To address this, we're working with industry to support the Tech Talent Charter. And I want to just take a couple of minutes to talk about this. There is a lack of gender diversity in our tech industry that has two problems brought with it. The first is that if you're only fishing in half the pond, you're only going to catch half the fish. And the shortage of digital skills our country needs means that we need to expand the net and fish in the whole pond. But the second reason that this is important is that I have never seen a decision made where the quality of the decision hasn't been improved by diversity of thought in the room. So both to improve the diversity of thought and the quality of decisions, and to ensure that we can fulfill the challenge of filling the skills gap, we need to ensure that we get better diversity in this industry. Over 200 companies, from international giants like Microsoft and BT, right up to startups, have signed up for this, and us in government too. And it means filling thousands of digital, data and technology roles across the economy and indeed across government to be more reflective of the country that we serve. We can't be a truly digital nation until we have a skilled, high-tech workforce that makes use of all of the available talent. And that brings me on to the third and the final principle I wanted to touch on. And that's the importance of answering the deep and searching ethical questions posed by new technology. So let's take artificial intelligence as an example. It presents some incredible opportunities: faster and more accurate diagnosis of illness, smarter energy use to protect the planet, technology to detect terrorist videos as soon as they're uploaded and before they are viewed. But while this digital revolution promises these vast benefits, it also raises challenging questions. Is it right, for example, for companies to predict our sexuality and ethnicity and tailor their services as a result? Is it right to have an algorithm to dictate who should be saved in a car crash? And what do we do if coding starts to reflect and replicate the unconscious biases that exist in society today? And these are not questions that we can write off as philosophical puzzles. They are now real policy questions being discussed in Parliament and in courtrooms in the years to come. We've recently embarked on a world first, setting up for government a Centre for Data Ethics and Innovation, an independent advisory body with a bold and ambitious remit to look far and wide to identify the measures that we need to make sure that we have ethical and innovative use of data, and to make sure that AI flourishes. Critically, it will advise on what we need to do in law and on our statute book. But the frameworks and the standards that it also will produce on a non-statutory basis will be just as important. And making sure that getting the ethics of AI right is mission critical to its success, because it will soon be an integral part of the way that we live and work and study. So it is vital that we get this right. So the message I want to leave you today with is this: whenever people try to hold back the change makers, they will lose. And this is especially true when it comes to technology. Whether it's the Luddites smashing up the early textile machines, or the horse and cart drivers who protested at the Victorian railways, or those who rallied against commercial TV in the UK, history tells us that we can't fight new technology, but we can shape it. So I'm on the side of the disruptors. There isn't a single business model out there that can't be improved over time through the transforming power of technology, because the marketplace for ideas is the best thing for customers. It means a race to the top in how we make services better and products easier and faster, more efficient, and ultimately benefit our fellow man. And it creates wider benefits for society as a whole. So, blessed are the change makers. And it's the role of governments across the world to give them what they need to succeed. And that's what we plan to do. Thank you very much.